Welcome back live tonight here on In Focus. Back to our leading story now. The Democratic Alliance in the Free State says it will ensure the provincial government answers following the death of 2 people and the hospitalization of over 40 others. It comes after flooding and mudslides in Jaggelsfontein when a mine dam wall collapsed this morning. Joining us now to unpack this further is the Free State DA's Karabo Khaukhau. Karabo, good evening and thank you very much for your time and for joining us tonight here on In Focus. Firstly, let's get your response and reaction to the development in the story now. The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, has deployed the National Disaster Management Center to the area. I know you had initially raised concern around the Karabo Disaster Management Center being able to respond adequately.
Yeah. So, firstly, good evening to you. Thank you for having me, and good evening to all our viewers. So, it's about time. We think the deployment of the emergency personnel on the ground came quite late. If the Free State provincial government had its own disaster management center in place, they would have been able to, one, had it detected this from the word-go before we even get to a disaster, and probably would have been able to, secondly, have some preventive measures in place. So we welcome the deployment of the national disaster troops there. But our primary concern is this, Wenatabo, that for the longest of time as the Democratic Alliance, we flagged the risk of governing a province without a disaster management center. Because when cases like this, when instances such as these occur, nobody knows what to do. And this is what we've seen throughout the day. The provincial government was running around like headless chickens, trying to figure out what to first do, when, how.
Yeah. But what do you mean, Karabo? Because Lungim Chali here is quoted as saying that the National Disaster Management Center is coordinating with the Provincial Disaster Management Center, ensuring that they provide assistance and also assess the extent of the damage. So, National is of the view that there has been a provincial structure operating there.
No, there is no provincial structure that's operating. It's an impromptu structure that has existed today, that was formed by the Premier and her executive today to try and mitigate the situation. But on a normal day prior to today, such didn't exist altogether, which is the crux of the problem that we have been flagging here. The district municipality hasn't been able to deal with any disaster collection of any information because it doesn't have the human resource to do so, and it doesn't have the funds to do so. So that structure has also been non-existent altogether. The same applies with the province. And that is our problem. Because people are dead. Lives that have been lost. Human beings whose homes have been washed away. People are left with nothing. There are local farmers whose livestock have been wiped off, with crop that has been wiped off. And we all know that the Free State economy depends heavily on the functioning of our agricultural sector. So our call is simple. That one, because the dam that has now collapsed has always been a red flag from the community members themselves, alerting the local government, the local Kopano local municipality, the Karabo district municipality and the provincial government of the dangers of this dam, when nobody did anything about that. We refuse to accept that this disaster is a mere tragedy that happened overnight, because the government was aware. They were told, they were warned, but they did nothing about it.
So I see that. Let's stick with that a little bit. I see some environmentalists saying that the dam breach analysis undertaken in 2020, well, one would say it was during the time of COVID, indicated potential risk due to improper and too wet operating conditions. What was done, as far as you know, since then to prevent this from happening? Because clearly this warning has been issued since 2020.
Nothing was done, and this is why we're here today. That's the problem, Thabo, that there were these reports that were done. Alerts were sent out to ensure that whoever is supposed to do what they're supposed to do does that. And had this report been taken seriously, had the cries of community members been taken seriously in time, then we wouldn't be here.
Now, in terms of the company, the businesses that you're talking about, the livestock, and of course the greater impact that this will have on the residents, do you have any degree of faith in the delivery of relief to these affected communities?
Do I have any degree of?
Confidence.
Do I have any confidence of relief?
Yeah.
At this current stage, honestly, there is not much confidence. But we are calling again. We've throughout the day have made it very clear that the provincial government and the national disaster team are able to lean on to the Western Cape government that has dealt really well with disasters in the past, who's helped with the with the floods that happened in KZN, to lean on to get any response. We are pleased to know that there are aids and NGOs such as the Gifts of the Givers that are flooding in, that are helping us with as much relief as possible. But even before this interview, I was on the line with the Premier of this province, Premier Sisim Ntombela, who herself does not know how they're going to be able to assist communities given the gravity of the situation. And this is a gravity that is only ascertained as of now. We're yet to know how deep the problem is tomorrow once more work has been done. But at the end of the day, what must be done is to ensure that people have shelter, have more a housing allocation that's going to deliver them from this trauma. We need to ensure that people's dignities are restored, because this is what happened. Particularly again, because the same community that is affected today is the very same community that warned the local authorities of a potential threat such as this one. So their death, the disruptions of their lives was something that they had already blown a whistle to the government about, but nothing was done. So we demand then on that basis that the provincial government and the local authorities must account as to how such happened, because there's also a lot of fog regarding the ownership of the mines and the tails altogether, because there was a sale in 2010 to Super Kolong, and then another one in 2012 through the Itumeleng Community Trust to the Jaggelsfontein Developments Pty Ltd altogether. So there are a lot of stakeholders who all of them need to account and take responsibility of this mess. This is not a new problem. You yourself have said you've seen reports that have come out speaking and alerting to this exact issue. So people must account.
What is the Premier saying about the funding? Who's going to pay for all this?
The Premier doesn't know where the funds are going to come from and who's going to pay for this. This is, again, I think I laugh because this is how ridiculous the state of affairs within our province is. It would sound ridiculous that a whole premier of a province is supposed to have some sort of idea of what's going on in her own province, doesn't have a clue, doesn't have an idea of what's going on.
So again, I worry, Karabo, because, I mean, when you hear a statement from government saying, no, we are working hand in hand, we are currently with the premier doing inspection and so on and so forth, essentially they are moving around doing a whole lot of nothing. I mean, that's essentially what you're saying to me.
Much.
Because they're just appearing to be looking busy when actually they've got no solutions on the ground as to where they are starting and what they're doing.
That is true. Your analysis is correct, spot on. I couldn't have said it better.
Now, when we look then at the impact assessment itself, I mean, there are some who are saying there could be degrees and levels of contamination in the slime itself. It could be acidic, it could be dangerous to the people who are even working there to try and bring some relief. Has there been any degree of prioritization of checking the degrees and the extent of the level of contamination in that slime?
Currently, there's no report as to that. We do not know where it is, because, I mean, with the troops that were even deployed on the grounds were impromptu troops. These are not disaster management savvy troops that were ready for such a case to begin with. So everybody just went in to try to help as much as they can with the little resource, knowledge and capacity that they could have had. But you were right in pointing that out, because we know that the toxins could lead to liver problems, skin irritations, and even hamper a person's nervous system. So it would be interesting to get that report to ensure that everybody is safe, that everybody who was able to help the community is not now endangered as a consequence of helping people, but also to ensure that even the residents themselves that are affected, those who have houses that are still standing aren't also exposed to greater risk because of the health implications of the splurge.
A quick look ahead then, what is the immediate action that you're going to be taking as the Democratic Alliance? I'll tell you why. Because the Auditor General just last week was highlighting the inadequate response in terms of relief in the KwaZulu-Natal disaster, saying that the delivery of relief to affected residents and businesses was inadequate, largely because there was poor project management on the ground.
Our first port of call is, like I said, we have already been in conversation with the provincial government, but we have been on the ground as the Democratic Alliance throughout the day to ensure that the relief is there, to ascertain, to monitor whether it's there or not. But we've also been applying pressure. We've written to the Premier, we'll continue to do so. We'll also be there tomorrow to ensure that somebody is able to at least give us some sort of a response and clarity to make sure that what happened in KZN doesn't happen here, because these are people's lives we're talking about. These are people's dignities. These are families that are distraught. We still need to ensure that the relief is there, that it is adequate, and that's why we're calling on as many civil society members of civil society as possible, NGOs, to ensure that we all put in as much help as possible to ensure that women have sanitary pads that they need, that children are able to go to bed with food, and that there are mattresses for people to sleep on, because what happened is truly not, it's sad.
Free State DA member there, Karabo Khaukhau, much appreciated. Thank you very much for coming on tonight here on In Focus.